You're new playing on controller, how hard is it to set up skills? It's no harder than mouse and keyboard, in the sense that you do have to think about how you're going to play some, and you will have to make changes. So, would you happen to have a job in mind? Because I can switch to my other account where I have more setups, if you want some examples. I don't mind. I can log out and go to my other account. This is a newer account, so I don't have as much set up on here. Let me log out, and now go to the other account and just tell me what job you're interested in, and I'll try to see if I can help you. 20 seconds, because I'm not in town. Because it would just be easier if I show you with examples. But healer, okay. Anyone in specific? Or just general healer? Because I'm actually a healer main, so this is perfect. Go data center, ether. It's just there are certain tips specific to some healers that I would recommend. Yeah, no problem, I'll show you. Just like with mouse and keyboard, everybody's different, right, in how they do their setup. So if you don't like my setup, it's fine. Just you can use it to get some ideas how maybe you're gonna want it. And so the first thing I'm going to point out is, you see how I have these two crossbars? That's something I personally enjoy, but some people don't. Some people, they do they just do one and then they switch it. You're coming from ESO, which I've never played, so unfortunately I can't really help you with that comparison. But like, this is one of my healers. Some people do play this way where they so you can see, hold on, let me make it bigger. Layout. Copy this to 2. Yes, copy to 2, and then I can make 2 bigger. Let me make it to 140. Ooh! So, some people play like this, where they just switch from one hotbar to another. So you get 8 of them. What I would recommend is you stick to 3, right? At most 3 for your battle stuff. And then everything that's not battle, you stick in other ones. So, like, I do that, where I do 1, 2, 3. And then for my 7 and 8, I have gear sets and mounts. And on 4 I have emotes and a few extra abilities just in case, but for the most part just 1, 2, 3. Every job can fit in 3 hotbars, so you want to do that just because that will make it a lot easier for you to separate your habits from when you're fighting and the habits from when you're not fighting. So that's the first thing I would say, is try to stick to 3. Now, and even then, also you want to do that because if you do choose to be like the people who do switching, which I don't do that, I don't do switching. I only do it outside of battle when I go to 7 and 8. Otherwise in battle I don't do switching. But some people do. I've seen more people use switching than people who play like me. So I guess maybe it just resonates with people more, so that's why I'm mentioning it, even though I personally don't use it. And you can also switch by tabbing. So that's the first thing is, are you going to be a switcher, or are you going to be using other things? What's squidding? A small controller tutorial is what's squidding. Now, the way I play is I use double cross hotbar, right? So I have 2 of them. And so my double, which is configurable, right? If you go to custom, this is right here, double cross hotbar. W is double, because if you say it with a Japanese accent, double is dabaru, and W is dabaru, so they sound 100% same. That's why they use W for double. And I have it set up to do all 8. And in this one, what you do let me show you, is you double tap. So I personally prefer that. It's up to you. If you're good at double tapping, then yeah. If you're not good at double tapping, then no. The other option is expanded, which is when you do both of them together. So this is my right and left, and this is my left and right. For most jobs, I actually have them 100% the same. Like if I go to my astrologian, they're the same, like right and left and right. And so the reason I recommend for you to stick to 3 hotbars is not just because if you do hotbar switching, you have less to memorize, but if you don't do hotbar switching and you use expanded and double, then that means you can do everything without ever doing switching. And so I actually have it set up, scene set selection, so that if I accidentally press one, when it's drawn, to only do hotbar 1. So if I go into battle, it will never switch. I mean, I'm not in battle, which is why it's switching, because this is sheathed, is when you're out of battle. But let's say I draw my weapon out, and now I press tap. Because if you take you actually can't take your weapon out without being in battle. See how nothing's moving? So I prefer this system because it means less potential errors when accidentally pressing this button. Because even if you don't do the pure switching, there is the quick switching, which is where it just cycles through them. So if you like double tapping, that's what I would recommend. Of course, everybody's different, play with it. I'm just giving you some options so that you can get ideas how you want to set it up. I would recommend for your doubles to put things that you don't use too often because it will slow you down a little. So, or at least things that, yeah, not too often. So for example, cards have a 30-second cooldown. For astrologian, 30 seconds is somewhat not too often, but like rezzing, ideally you're not rezzing too often. Protect, ideally you're not protecting too often. Same with Asuna. So it's a good place to put things like that, and limit breaks and potions, whatever. Same with Scholar. I've got like Change Stratagem, which has a 120-second cooldown, so that's where it's good for. And Rescue, because you know you gotta troll people. You gotta troll people. And if you do that, if you make use of all 3 crossbars, that means you get, so each one of these is 8, right? This is 8, that's 8, so that's 16, and you get 3 of them. That's 48 buttons. So if you have 48 buttons, you can fit everything in there. And so I would actually say, put all your roll actions, except break. You don't need break. You really don't need break. Break is, it's unused for a healer, except for extremely limited circumstances, maybe in Heaven on High. Maybe. But you can actually fit everything. And if you are a healer main, and not just like a white mage main and a scholar main, if you are a healer main, which means you play multiple or all of them, I would also recommend put your CDs, the things you get from the roll actions that are the same, in the same spot. So you notice, right? Here's my cleric stance, and I'm a scholar. Now I'm a white mage. Now I'm an astrologian. Put them in the same place. If you are actually a healer main. Because it will help you so much, because eventually you want to have muscle memory. Yeah. I would also recommend, right, one of the beautiful things about playing controller is you can use abilities very easily while moving around. So you want to have your instant damage one somewhere, ideally on this side, on the face buttons, not on the T-pad. So like if I go to Scholar and I do this, right, I'm moving around. This is my Ruin 2, which is instant if I was to attack, which means I will be able to attack while moving. Now you may think, well, it's a healer. You know, you don't really need to worry about attacking. In this game, healers do a lot of attacking. And you ideally want to be able to get to a certain point someday where you can move and attack, or move and heal. Like if I want to heal, Scholar doesn't have as many, but I could tell my fairy, hey, go embrace that. Or if I'm on my astrologian, I could target something and while I'm moving and be like, okay, here's a benefit for you. So you want to think about these things. But overall, I mean, that's your muscle memory will take everything. Ooh, big tip, very big tip. Sprint. Right, so you have some extra abilities here. One of them is Limit Break, which you should definitely, absolutely have. Probably over here. The other one that you will want to have is Sprint. But you notice I don't have Sprint anywhere. You don't see it anywhere. It's not here, it's not there, it's not there. Right? And that's because I actually put Sprint. System config, gamepad, calibration. I put this as macro 98 and macro 99. And if I go to my macros, my macro 99 is Sprint. And so I can just press in, right? Actually press in on R3, you know, click in and sprint. This is just a general tip for controller you should always have. And I won't say that as far as setting up your bars, that's probably most of what's needed. Now there are other things, like for example, if I go on Scholar and I summon my pet, let me switch back to my normal layout, the one that doesn't have the gigantic one. Alright, this is 1, 2. Hi Ghost, I'm doing good. I'm just explaining how to set up something for controller as a healer. For some people, you know, you gotta know how to set it up, and the game doesn't tell you, well, this is what you should do because everybody's different. So, your pet, right, has abilities and things, and I would recommend that you actually keep this open even though you're not using it because you're on controller. I'm assuming controller only, not like me where I'm a controller and a mouse at the same time. But I actually don't use these. I keep them here so I can very quickly see the pet. If you're playing Scholar, if you're not playing Scholar, you're not interested in the Scholar point of view, but you asked for healers, so I'm covering all three. The reason I do this is so I can see them, but I actually allocated them each separately on here. Now in order to do that, it was a little bit tricky, because Scholar of course has the most amount of buttons, and if you allocate a pet action here, and you switch pets, it doesn't change. It doesn't. So in order to do that, I had to actually put, you see my one? You know what, let me switch back to the other layout. The big layout. And I'll put this right over here. Right. My controller. So you see my hotbar one, right? This is my main one. Which, by the way, if you didn't understand, because I'm kind of going over it a little quickly, probably. Hotbar 2, that's actually my left and right. See, if I do my left and right and left, or whichever, my expanded, it goes to hotbar 2. And hotbar 3 is what shows up on my double. So you're actually using the existing hotbar to do the double and the expanded. You're just giving a different shortcut to actually get to them. And Scholar is the only one where my left and my right for expanded are different. All the other jobs, I have them 100% the same, because that way you don't have to worry about order. But Scholar couldn't fit because it has the most amount of buttons of any job. Of all. If you place your pet stuff. But like I said, if you place your pet action and then you switch pets, it won't switch it. So in order to overcome that, Scholar's a bit finicky. I made a 5 and a 6. And 5 and 6 are exactly the same, but 5 has Celine's actions, while 6 has Eos's actions. In the same spot. So 1 is here, 2, 3, and 4. They're not in order of this, they're based on other things, other criteria. Like I was trying to do shields here, AoEs, and then this one is like an extra shield that's not an AoE. I mean it is, but it isn't. And this is single target, that's why it's here. So like there's there's many reasons why I did my setup this way. You don't have to do it exactly the same. But you certainly can if you want. But I did 5 and 6, and then when I summon my pet, you see how they have a little icon next to it? This? You might not be able to see it very well. That's because it's a macro. And macros in general you want to stay away from unless they serve a very specific purpose, and this is one of those. And the very purpose it has is to summon my pet. I mean, I do more than that. First I make sure there's no errors. Then I say, okay, I want to set my pet in obey, because I always want an obey. And then it copies 5 to 1. And Scholar's the only one where I had to do something crazy like that. No other job I'm using, you know, any kind of switching of crossbars copying to do that. It's only Scholar where I needed to be able to fit it in 3 hotbars, and the whole pet thing made it a bit more difficult. It's the only one. And I think I accidentally pressed something, and now I'm back to my other layout. Yeah, so that's something to potentially have to do. If you are interested in doing the setup where you copy, where you have a hotbar for each pet, and then you just copy it to the first hotbar, I do believe at one point I actually put these on a website. The thing is, I don't remember where. But I will also point you to a different thing that I have, that I made. I am actually the author of the Comprehensive Controller Guide, which has all of these examples in there. It's very long though. It's 90 pages long. I am sorry. It is very comprehensive. The other things you should learn is how to target. As a healer, you will want to know how to do your targeting. And if you're in a party, so you have your targeting button, which I'm assuming you haven't changed your setup, but your targeting button is probably going to be left bumper or L1, depending on whether you prefer to say it in Sony format or Microsoft format. And so you press that, and the D-pad is used for targeting, right? So up and down is your party. So if you want to go up or down in your party. And left and right is for your alliance. So if you're in a 24-man and you want to go to an alliance member, you would be using left and right, but most of the time you're using up and down. Oh, actually, hold on, I messed that up. Yeah, you don't press the targeting, my bad. You just press up and down for your party. Because targeting and up and down is actually going for your enemies. There's other things you can do for targeting. You can actually set up custom filters, which is actually really awesome. Let me go somewhere where I can show you this. Anywhere's fine. Sure, Black Bar Station. It's just information. It's okay. It'll be easier when I actually have a party member to show you something. So I'm going to summon. Oh, she's already summoned. Now she shows up as a party member, right? I'm also going to summon my Chocobo. So, makes it easier. So now you see I have a party list, and I'm gonna make it bigger. Save. So if I press up and down on the D-pad, it cycles. It also does to me, which because this isn't a real party, I don't have actual people with me, it's not listing me on the party list, but normally you would be on the party list as well. So that's one way to do it. And there's actually a little trick, which is pressing your confirm X, right? Will change the targeting. But you can actually still heal without that. So if I do a heal, an add low on actually, let me select Boko-chan, right? You see I'm selecting my chocobo. I want to do an atlas to show that I'm selecting my chocobo. And you see my heel goes to my chocobo. And now I'm going to move, but not hit enter on my fairy. I'm not hitting it, but I'm targeting it. But I'm just not selecting it. I'm not turning that party list to blue. My heel will go to my fairy, and now my targeting goes immediately back to the chocobo, so that my next heel will go to the chocobo. So a hard target stays, but you can actually use soft targeting to do a one-time heal on something else, or one-time attack on something else. I don't know how many people actually make use of it. I do sometimes, and it's very powerful. But for the most part, you just use up and down, and you click in which one you want to heal, if you're doing single target. For ground targeting, I'm going to recommend, some people use a macro, I'm going to recommend you don't. Instead, use your camera to aim it. You can unlock it, which allows you, if you unlock, let me show you. If you unlock, which is control settings, target, yeah, it's unlocked, right? You use R1 and left and the analog sticks, and you can move it around like this. This is going to be much slower than leaving it in one place that you know is always going to be there, and then using your camera to move it. Usually this will be faster, at least I find it faster. Maybe you want to try out both ways, but I find this faster. Because if you move it, right, let's say you put it over here, and you do your thing, and then 5 minutes later you need to do ground targeting, it's going to start from over there. Which means now every time you use a ground target, you have to remember where you moved it to. And that will slow you down. Whereas if you're assuming it's always going to be here, no matter what, 100% of the time, well, you know that. Therefore, it's very easy for you to go, oh yeah, well, I'm going to move my camera here. I'm going to move my camera there. Now, I still leave it with the ability to unlock so that if I choose to, I can. But even though I have unlock enabled, I use my camera to target. I just leave it just in case, for some reason, someday, maybe, I need to not move my camera while doing this run. I don't know why, but it's just in there just in case. And that's what I would recommend, and instead of using ground targeting macros. Though you certainly can use ground targeting macros, but in general you should try to not use too many macros. As few as possible. And then you just click in. And I think that covers most of it. So let's see. You need to know whether you want to do double tapping or extended, or if you want to do hotbar switching, or a combination of it. You need to know that you can actually make it so that you have different things. Yes. Use macros for Shadow Flare and Salted Earth and wonder why they don't work right away. Yeah, sometimes if you use macros, they don't always work right away for the ground ones, depending on how far you are and things like that, which is why it gets annoying. Though to be fair, the same thing can happen when you're using it normally and you press X and X is just like, nah, you didn't do it. Nah. Right, so you need to know which style you're going for. You need to know, which I believe it, right? That you can make it so that you can turn off switching completely for the quick switching. You can't turn off the direct switching, which is where you actually tell it how hotbar. That's always there. But the quick switching you can turn off for sheathing and unsheathed. And, you know, making sure you put your abilities in a way that's accessible for the common ones while you're moving around for that uptime. Putting ideally CDs in hard to reach places such as this or these. Yeah, double tap seems easier. I prefer it. I've just seen a lot of people, like I go to controller people all the time that are streaming, and so far I'm the only person I've seen that actually uses them, and I'm just like, am I really that weird? But to me it's faster and easier, so like I don't have trouble with my double use. But you know, try it out, see what works for you. Everybody's different. And I do recommend having the pet thing here. And one thing I like about using this for CDs is not having to make another hotbar to see your CDs, which is something other people do much. You will notice I don't have hotbars for CDs, except for my pet hotbar. And because I have my pet stuff allocated directly, I don't have the setting on to put on pet hotbar. Until you make something to allow for that, you should use it, which is right here. If you go to hotbar settings and cross, it has use pet hotbar, which if I had on, then anytime you use hotbar switching, no matter what, the quick switch, it goes to your pet bar, which is set. You can't change it, you can't change the order, you can't change any of that. And I found that really annoying. But if you don't use it, that means you do have to place them on your own hotbars the same way I did, which means you have to account for the fact that different pets for the same job will have skills in different places, which means you need to use macros like I do, not to do the skill, but to change your hotbar into a different hotbar. Like 5 and 6 into 1. I know that I swear Scholar is the only one. For Summoner, people mostly play on Sick anyway, so it's not a big deal. There's only like 2 skills you want to manually adjust for Summoner, so it's really not that bad to actually put those on the hotbar itself without having to make a different one for each pet, because you just don't control most of them. But for Scholar, you do need to control each ability individually, so you need to allocate for all of them. And Scholar also has a ton more abilities, even than Summoner. It just does. Because you actually, you should place your pet. Yeah. Exactly. If you want that extra 30 more DPS, sure, go right ahead, use Obey. But otherwise, use Sick. So, Summoner's not as bad. But Scholar, you do have that extra trickery of how to do your hotbars when you want to place them along with your regular abilities. And I find that doing this means you treat your pet more like an extension of yourself rather than this separate entity, which usually makes it easier to understand how it works. And you don't need all of these, like, I don't put Away on there. I don't. I have Place over here for placing my pet. Does video save combat? All of my videos are saved, so it will be here for, if you want to come back and look at it, it will be here for like a month. I have been working on converting the controller guide to a video series, but I just started it, so it's not anywhere near ready. I have a lot more. I've only done one video so far, which was just on what is a crossbar. It literally just explains how to use this, not things like how to do your buttons or anything like that, or how to do targeting. Those are the next videos, and I'm making them very slowly because I'm very new to making like video editing for YouTube, so I wouldn't expect that anytime soon. So yeah, my VOD will be here, and you can check it anytime you want for like a month or two until it gets automatically deleted by Twitch. Now the other thing you may have noticed is in my HUD layout, I personally like to put my job gauges in between them. I mean, it's up to you, but you probably want to put them somewhere where you can see your cooldowns as well, because the gauges go with the cooldowns, right? This relates to ether flow, this relates to XCOG and Lustrate, so you kind of want to be able to see that at the same time. Likewise, if your cards, you want to be able to see that. So I personally like to put them in the middle for all my jobs. And for most of them, I use simple mode to make it smaller, unless it just isn't as big a deal. Like Astrology, I have it in regular mode, but on Scholar, I have it as simple mode. So this is my ether flow gauge. It's not the big, gigantic ether flow gauge that they normally have. For simple mode, you just go to your gauge, and you have to switch job gauge to simple mode. Because otherwise, you get this big, gigantic thing. And Scholar has 2 gauges, so that's 2 gigantic things, and that's just that gets annoying. So yeah, we covered how to do hotbars and how to do targeting, a very quick thing of targeting. Simple mode. And I think that's about it for, like, you know, how to get started. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. And we covered how to do ground targeting. Yeah. But if you have any questions ever again, just come by and ask, and I'll be more than happy to go over controller play. Because I will say I'm pretty fast at controller play. You know. I may not necessarily be the best player as far as like ultimate, but I'm pretty good at my controller play. That's why I made that gigantic guide. Alright. Let's switch this character back out. Go back to the Japanese one. Elemental. I'm glad I helped you. I would recommend, if you're going for double tapping, make sure you're comfortable with your controller. I mean, I don't know how much of a choice you have as far as your controllers, but if you have the ability to get one that fits you better, because double tapping can, or even just doing this, can get a little tiring if you have weak fingers like mine. So that's why I went for a Switch Pro controller. But I know if you're on a PS4, you won't have as many choices because the third-party ones aren't very different from the regular ones. And if you put something on this side, right? This is the D-pad side. Ask yourself, if I were moving, how often would I need to use it? And if so, can I comfortably reach it while doing this? Which is taking, while you're using this, taking your hand across to the D-pad. If you can't do that comfortably, then you shouldn't put anything that's used somewhat frequently there. Because there will be times when you need to do things while you're moving. Especially if you go for like high level play at some point.